Hello, everyone. This is Bayo Olaronto, author, consultant, and peak performance coach, and the creator of Happy Holidays Hot Bodies 12-week online course. This is our special interview series with some of the best health and fitness experts and life coaches in the wellness industry today. As you know, we're always keeping you happy, having fun, and keeping you hot during the holidays. Today we have an outstanding life coach, Tanea Flanders. She's the founder of Design You Coaching. Her coaching approach really helps clients make choices that fortify their inner power and strength, and she creates these transformational experiences to really help people live a life filled with purpose and passion. And Tanea, she has an amazing background. She earned her bachelor's in psychology at Lehigh University, her master's in organizational psychology at Columbia University, and her coaching certification from NYU. And she holds master's certifications also in instructional design, facilitation, and leadership assessment with Langevin, American Management Association, Development Dimensions Incorporated, and CPP, which is a world leader in scientifically based personality, career, and organizational assessments such as Myers-Briggs and CPI 260. So welcome, Tanea. We're glad you're here.
Wow, welcome. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So truly excited to have you on the call. And first, I know that's quite an impressive background. And can you first kind of tell us, how did you choose coaching as a career path, or did that kind of evolve for you?
Sure. I mean, I think it's an evolution. We always evolve, even in the spaces that we love. And I think there was a seed planted in childhood. I was always wondering, what motivated people? Why did you choose to do what you do? And I think and choose to do different things. That initially led into a career in journalism, which made sense, right? I wanted to investigate and research and understand the world. And after studying that for some time and had a mentor when I was interning at a magazine, and he encouraged me to figure out your passion because the words will come. And so that was my first lesson in finding and living and loving your passion, that when you are energized by what you do and how you feel and how you look, everything else comes into place. And in school, I changed my major to psychology, and I've been with it ever since.
Wow, so it really started with passion for you then.
Started with passion. I mean, I want to spend my days, the time I have on this earth, loving what I do. I want to look in the mirror and love who I see. I want to be proud of who I am. And it all starts with, what you do day to day. If you're spending 10 hours doing something you don't love, boy, that ripples through, other areas of your life.
Right. That could be incredibly draining and take a lot away from your natural energy, right?
Take a lot away, becomes a distraction, a demoralizer, and that's when we start looking for things in our world to supplement and kind of fill that void, whether it's food, whether it's people, whether it's devices. We want to feel nurtured. And so I wanted to be in a place where I can create that for myself.
Well, you surely have done that. I was taking a look at your website, and it's quite amazing. I saw there that you have a unique branded model you call the 3D model for coaching, and that sounds really cool. And I really want to let the listeners know, what is the 3D model, and how do you apply that in this modern-day environment we have with life coaching?
Sure. I often say I am a product, that evolved into this coaching practice. And I am, this balance of science, all these certifications and this background in psychology, but I'm also very spiritual. It is very much a yin-yang, symbiotic approach to life and living. And that's really where the 3D model, the coaching model I created, is born. What comes to mind for me is a quote, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's one that says, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And
that's one of my favorites.
Yes, I said, I know you know it. And I said to myself, what approach to coaching will capitalize on the spiritual being that we are, and really take into account that we're here to learn every day. That it's not just, a destination or the number on the scale or the number in the bank. This is an evolution. This is why we are here. And so my coaching model takes a formula, an approach, a sounded, scientifically based framework that says we live our lives by what we dream, by what we think, by what we tell ourselves. Right. But we start there. What are the theories and beliefs that we hold? Because what we think is what becomes. And so we start with a dream. We do a lot of work on self-discovery. Who are we in this life? My body is not a separate container. I am this person. And who is that spirit? How do I want to show up? And then what are the lessons and triggers that tend to have a repeating pattern? We all have them. That's the human experience. We don't get to escape it. And so in my work, we discover what those are, and we have fun with it. Again, this world we live in, this life is a playground for exploration. And then we design around it. Life is going to happen. As planful as we are, something will come up to take us on a different path. Maybe we're curious about it, or maybe, again, it's a derailer. And so what are the designs that we can create to stay true to those dreams, to continue to negotiate and adjust so that we're always moving forward, we're always evolving.
Wow. So those 3 Ds, they stand for dream, discover, and design?
Design, exactly. And if you can imagine a model, it's like a sphere. We're always in this constant mode of adjusting our dreams, right? How often do you achieve something? You achieve that weight loss, that number on the scale, and you say, well, that was nice, but I really would like to, shape my waist more. Or I received that promotion, that's nice, but now I want something else. And so that's part of the human experience.
And that's what we're talking a little bit about today. As you've seen a lot about our course, and you've talked with me about it. And as we approach the holidays, of course, we want to know some of the guidance and what's important, and how important is it for individuals to seek guidance and support from life coaches, personal trainers, accountability partners as we approach the holiday season?
Oh, my goodness, it's so important. We live in this very individualistic society, and everything that we experience in terms of the success that we gain in our lives is through the work and expertise and guidance of others. This is true in your education, if you're an athlete, if you're in sports or you're in arts. Think of the champions that come to mind: Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, your Beyonce. There's a legion of experts enabling their success. And so why are they any different than you? You have your legion accessible too. You can have your life coach. You can have your trainer and those partners to keep you accountable so that you, just like them, can realize the dreams for your life. You can have that dream body. Use the resources that are accessible to you.
Yeah, and especially today in the technological world, we have so many resources online where people can find out more about coaches. And as we have this online course and, you have different programs, and we all have these things, so it's definitely accessible for people. And, so we're looking at this. We want to talk today a little bit about giving some of the listeners some tips and some ideas on what they can do in some primary areas. And one of the first areas I wanted to ask you about, and I've been really waiting to hear your answer, was, this notion of creating a holiday experience that aligns more with our authentic self and our dream body, because it seems like a lot of people, kind of tend to feel like they have to compromise their authentic self and their dream body to appease or appeal to family members and things like that. So how important is the mind state to helping clients foster a better attitude, the mind state to be successful? And that's one thing we really emphasize in Happy Holidays in Our Body. So how important is that?
It's the key. It's the seed. You're what we think we become. And so if I create this life where I believe I am indebted to the people around me to eat what they serve, then I am putting myself in a position where my body is subject to whatever they believe I should eat or have. We believe that we're in some sort of pain or feeling bad about, having to get together on the holidays or dealing with travels and being in the airports and dealing with the stress of that. Know
how that could go.
Exactly. We can fortify, our bodies and our minds in preparation for those experiences. We're not victims, if you will. And it starts with, your mind state, telling yourself, reminding yourself that everything you need, you have within. Everything that you want to have, that body that you desire, you have access to. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of being so clear and so connected on your dreams and so in touch with the resources that you have. If it's that partner, if I'm logging my food and sending it in, if I'm, Skyping with someone, doing a video or exercise routine together, that I'm reminding myself of why I'm doing this, why I'm making this investment. And
absolutely, yeah. I was going to say, absolutely, that's so incredibly important because a lot of people think there's these heroic efforts, but it's just this one little focus. If you could just do that focus consistently, like I have the 9 rituals there, and it's just the ability to focus on your hydration or nutrition or just a little cardio or resistance exercise makes a big difference. So do you have any specific things you do to help clients with their attitude or mind state that maybe like a quick tool that they may be able to use?
Yes. First, one of the things we start with are writing dreams. And so dreams are very different than goals. A goal is I want to lose 10 pounds. Goal is I want to go back to school. That's great. That's a wonderful, and aren't necessarily inspiring. And so I work with clients to write, and tailor your own dream body statement. Let's start there. What are you doing? How do you look? How do you feel? I'll read you or share with you an excerpt of mine. It says, "My body rocks, and I am mesmerized when I walk naked past the mirror, gazing at my chiseled abs. I'm the inspiration for Michelangelo's David." And I go on to talk about how my body fits in my clothes, what's my weight, that exercise is easy and fun and innovative. And so when I am connected to how easy this is and how much I want it, it's not, I have to go to a class, I have to make sure I'm eating my greens. I'm doing it because I can see, I can visualize, I can touch where I'm going, that journey. We start there, so having that dream clear. And similar to what you put in place is having your tools, what I call on autopilot, easily accessible. The human brain wants things to be easy, right? That's why we chunk phone numbers. That's why we look for kind of press and play on our apps, right? That's why we love our smartphones. And so the program you designed will help us do that, to really put in place, the framework for which I can just show up. I can be, I can exist. I know exactly the support I'm getting, and I can run those routines on autopilot.
That's really, really powerful because just the concept of a hot body, just to have that vision in your mind of who you're being at the moment and who you're becoming, right? It's incredibly powerful to do that. So how important are the positive habits and rituals for getting results? As you know, we can try something once, but creating these habits and rituals for getting results, how important is that?
Oh, habits. That's pretty much the space where we live, are our habits. And, to think about, I do a lot of work with habits by looking at our kind of default personality traits. So for someone, their habit may be around avoiding things. So when stress is too high, I may avoid exercise. I may seek that comfort food. For others, if they're triggered, they may push their bodies too far, not eat enough calories to sustain the energy that they need. And so we want to put in place those positive habits and patterns so that when we're triggered, we're aware of the trigger and we know exactly where to go. It becomes a routine. So we're not deciding what to do. You know, we're back to that plug and play. And
it's almost like we can either. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to offer when you do that when there aren't moments of stress, right? When you practice that fire drill before the fire, you know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say it's almost like an upward spiral. If you have bad habits, it's like a downward spiral. And if you can create the good habits, then you're just going to create successes that are going to stack on top of other successes. And so
exactly.
That brings me to my next question. Yeah, and that brings me to my next question is, so I guess I've kind of answered it, though, but why we fall into the same New Year's resolution trap, overeating during the holidays and then expecting to start over in January, year after year. I mean, so many Americans fall into this trap. Is it because of our addictions and bad habits that this is happening year after year?
I would say yes. I think my experience is the break, quote unquote, that we take during the holiday season has become our habit. You know, we've created this habit of, you know, once the October season, once fall passes, that we can treat ourselves. That it's time to take a break. You know, these are the things that we say to ourselves, right? That the work we did the past 9 months almost doesn't matter because we deserve this overindulgence period. And so part of shifting that New Year's resolution trap is to change our thinking, to change our approach to the holidays. And maybe the holidays is a time to honor all the work that we've done, to, you know, continue to indulge, but indulge mindfully. You know, we talk about mindful eating and really savoring the food so that you don't overindulge, and making choices so that you look at the week ahead and you know where the moments of stress are, and you fortified your diet and your exercise and your sleep patterns so that you can manifest that body even through those times.
Wow, yeah. So just giving yourself that consistency and setting it up, basically setting yourself up to win. Okay, so I want to go into another area that many people may not have really considered a lot. First of all, you know, if they're taking on a new mind state, I think a lot of people forget about the emotions and how the emotions can be triggered. And sometimes we may have all great positive intentions for how we're going to be during the holidays, or as we're approaching family and friends and travel and some of the stresses we might endure. But how important are empathy and compassion versus judgment and antagonism during the holidays, just embodying these more higher emotional states, so to say?
It's absolutely important. You know, very often our default pattern is to judge. It's to judge ourselves, judge those around us, because it's a place of fear. You know, I fear the decision I'm making, and so I'll judge it and beat myself up for it and feel guilty, and that then feeds the justification for having that next slice of cake, right? And so one way to step out of that spiral is to approach yourself, your life, with love and compassion, to understand where the source, that motivation to eat more, to overindulge, to go off your food plan. Take a step back and say, where is this coming from? Simply asking the question and giving yourself a moment to acknowledge what you're feeling, and also be compassionate with yourself, kind of giving yourself that room. And then when you eat or have something that's off the plan, forgiving yourself for it, and said it's one moment instead of creating a new pattern. and saying, I'll start next week or I'll start next year. It was one slice of cake. I'm back in the game. I'm reconnected to my dream, and I know my triggers. And so earlier in our call, we talked about, this is the journey. It's not a single destination. I don't, go through 1 week and have great success and automatically assume there'll never be another hiccup or roadblock or challenge to face.
Yeah. So that's interesting because it's almost like you have to have that empathy and compassion for your own humanity and your own behaviors and habits. And then you have to recognize that you need to have that for others around you as well, who may be both asking you to indulge in things that may not be favorable for your fitness plan, but then also that may be triggering you to go into these comfort foods and things like that.
Yes, and being able to, again, be so clear and connected with your dream, your approach for designing and living and loving your body, and feeling so grounded in it that you can say to a friend or a family member, thank you for offering, these cookies, this slice of pie, whatever they're giving is this season. And being able to say, no, thank you. Like, I appreciate this expression of love, because that's very often where it comes from.
Right. That's one of the things I always say. It's still love. I mean, you can still acknowledge the love. Like, you can still have the connection and the enjoyment. Just saying no thank you doesn't mean you're denying the enjoyment and connection. Exactly.
And sharing then that dream with the person who's offering this gift. They're not living their life, but sharing this dream. This is what I'm working on. This is how, I would appreciate and want to show you love in return. Just have a conversation.
Right. Wow. So that really goes in. Yeah. Then, having fun with it and you never know who, you may be inspiring with your own plan. They may think, wow, this is great. This is a good thing. It's not denial. This is how we're going to have more life and energy and joy together, not be ill and things like that. Exactly. So what role does integrity and boundaries play in our experience with you reuniting the loved ones? Basically how to be present and how to have that love and saying no. What are some conversational ways that we can do that? And, because we say no, thank you. It may seem easy to us, but some people might find that a little more difficult.
Sure.
What are some strategies that people can do to kind of like navigate that a little more tactfully?
Of course. It starts with designing your holidays. It starts with, making those plans for who am I spending this holiday with? Where are some of their triggers? Where are some of their body concerns in this case? What are some things that I can do with this person to experience that love, that holiday celebration, which we all seek, right? That connection and celebration in other ways. So maybe it's not at the dining room table. Maybe we go out. Maybe we serve at a soup kitchen together. Again, it's sharing that dream, asking the question and sharing with someone, look, this is my dream. This is my plan for the holiday season. I want you to feel love. What are some other things I can do with you so that you feel and experience that?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yes. A couple of years ago, my Southern soul cooking mother even made her first batch of gluten-free, dairy-free macaroni and cheese for me one holiday. And she teased me about it the whole time. She complained about, trying to find these ingredients. And, there was one point where I said, wow, well, I don't want to be teased for this. This is my dream. And then I realized this is new for her too, right? And I could have a little fun with her and just simply appreciate the love and the effort and the grace that she's offering me, then it's a win for us both.
Absolutely. So how can using new language as well dramatically make our holiday experience the best ever rather than something we dread. Like even some of the things we say to ourselves, I think you mentioned that sometimes we might say, oh, I'm fat, or I'm going to gain weight, or I'm a pig, or I hate the way I look. Like, how can we say some specific language and self-talk that would be better for us?
Absolutely. Language is so powerful. It starts with some of my clients may have affirmations that they post on their mirror or on, next to their bed. So the first thing they see are those words of affirmation and words of inspiration, words of love. And when you repeatedly see those words, use that language about yourself. So if, I am 10 pounds heavier than my dream weight, I'm going after my dream body. I'm not fat. I'm not a pig. It's getting clear on the part of the journey that we can find and experience joy in. And remembering that, again, those thoughts, those words that we use, that language drives our action or inaction, right? If I'm always saying I'm fat, I'm going to prove that theory by my action, or in this case, inaction. If I tell the world, if I tell myself I'm a warrior, that I am fit, that I am living and experiencing health and wellness and resiliency and strength, those words make me want to go after it. And so you can choose those words. Choose the ones that connect with you. Have them on your phone. Have them visible. Repeat them to yourself. And again, in those moments of stress or when someone or some experience is showing you something different, going back to that place and saying, this is the self-talk I want to hear. You can choose the language. You can then choose the habits
I think
you choose.
I think that so many people forget that, with marketing and the commercials that we see, how much programming goes on in and, around our environment every day, and how sometimes there's that just general kind of negative buzz of the news or of, also just indulgent commercials that, of course, want us to buy different products and foods and things like that. I think sometimes we forget the reversal that we need to personally do in order to kind of recondition ourselves. And do you have, some specific phrases that work well that you found for that?
Sure. Well, one, when I'm looking at magazines, I remind myself that, this is Photoshop. This is a piece of art, right?
Oh, nice.
It's not a picture from, my iTunes phone or my Kodak throwback. This is made to look a certain way. And so that helps to release that self-judgment that will creep up as you naturally, right, compare yourself. That's how the human mind works. And so reminding myself the images I see are art, reminding myself that this is about health and wellness and strength and power and not a number. The number is a guide. It's a GPS, right? And this is your car. There are many ways to get there. You choose the journey. Now, do you want to choose 20 years of, the added pounds that lead to diabetes and some other things before you choose differently? Or do you want to tap into, that power, that strength that you feel when you're outside and hiking and don't feel winded? And so that's why those dreams are so important, because when I'm describing what I'm doing with my body, how my body is a vehicle for this life experience, then I'm clear on the fuel it needs, right? I wouldn't put the wrong fuel in my car. So why would I treat my car, this thing, better than my body?
And the human body is so resilient, and I used to just joke about this with clients all the time. The human body is so resilient. We can't get away with putting bad things into a car, for example. Like, we can't put sugar in a gas tank and it won't, have it go. But our body, we can actually put a lot of garbage into our body, and our body actually withstands a lot before it breaks down. And that's one of the things I think we do take too much for granted as human beings. And hopefully some of the awareness that we're raising about that will help people realize that, you know, what comes in is what comes out, both the images and things we put into our mind as well as the things we eat. So that moves me on to another segment. This is a little more regarding, you know, this is kind of like a touchy subject for a lot of people, but I think it definitely needs to be addressed because you can't ignore it. And it's basically handling emotional triggers and family members during the holidays. As someone once mentioned, like, you know, 80% of families have some sort of dysfunction. So, I mean, nobody's from a quote-unquote perfect, normal family, right? So we come together during the holidays, and we have, many of us, a lot of us have a lot of unresolved family issues. So first of all, I wanted to really ask you, what are some of the specific unresolved family issues people tend to fall into?
Absolutely. This is an excellent point. You know, the first thing to remember is that the human experience, again, we remember trauma. We remember trauma from growing up. We remember the cousin that teased us. We remember the aunt that wasn't very loving. We remember being scolded. Those are really incidents of trauma. Trauma is not only abuse or abandonment. Okay. Right. Those moments of trauma are misunderstanding, are miscommunications, feeling misrepresented. And when we have those experiences, we create stories in our mind. And we retell those stories. And those stories, you know, are just that. They're stories about how the event played out. And it's so important to resolve those events, even in your own mind. And this is where a coach can help, to really look at, you know, is this how it played out? And if so, what was your part in it? How can we release those feelings of anger and anxiety and simply discomfort of being around other people? Can we forgive them? We go back to that compassion and empathy. Can we forgive them for making human errors, right? And for to connect with their effort to love us and forgive the other pieces.
So we try to find the intention.
Find the intention and find your place in, you know, the solution. And so I can, as I'm preparing for my family gathering, I can write a dream around how people show up. You know, I know there's going to be that one uncle who drinks a lot, right, and causes an argument. So what are the things, just as with my body, how can I fortify my mind? How can I, you know, recognize this is his journey and his experience, and I can simply love and support him from where he is and not judge it.
Right. It's almost like entering into the... oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to offer family as one of our greatest triggers. You know, more
and I was going to say, it's almost like we have to enter back into our family like sort of in a Buddhist mind state. You know, we kind of have to have that beginner's mind about the whole thing and kind of like not be in a sort of neutral state of mind to accept what may be said to us or what may be feelings that may come over us rapidly, and sort of sit with those feelings for a while and kind of like explore them. Actually could be healthy, right?
Absolutely. And that's where, you know, we evolve, when we can sit with the feeling and not become that feeling. So I can recognize, wow, this triggered me. You know, I'm angry. Why am I angry? Why is this the thing that I hold on to? And it's usually, you know, a reflection back to ourselves. You know, there's a reason we're angry at Aunt Joan for what she said, because some small part of us believes it. You know, if I went to you and said the sky is green...
I think, Tanea, it broke up a little bit there. Can you repeat that, what you just said? I think it broke up a little bit on us there.
Sure. I said,
okay.
An example I gave is if our aunt, you know, said something that hurt our feelings, you know, a part of it hurt.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a part of us that believed it. And so part of me healing is to sit and ask myself, and again, working with a coach, why do I buy into, what Aunt Joan said? Why is there some part of me that believes I'm inadequate, that believes I'm not enough, that holds this fear? And when I resolve those pieces, what other people say, my family, my friends, my coworkers, they don't trigger me as much because I'm resolved. I feel good about my decisions and choices and my thinking.
That's really good. That's really good. So, okay, so those are some of the issues that could cause some disturbance. What are some of the specific patterns and triggers that actually, lead people directly to the food? I think that's a lot of listeners probably want to know that, like, what is it that's causing me to go directly for the food,
Yes. There's usually two primary emotions for humans, right? It's anger and it's fear. And everything
anger and fear?
Anger and fear. Those are usually our primary emotions. And so if I'm feeling unsettled or discomfort or frustrated, I can peel back the layers and really ask, what am I scared of, and where may I be feeling hurt? When we're hurt, that often leads to anger. And when we're scared, when we fear a loss of something, either a loss of our sense of self, a loss of control, a loss of our image, we want to mitigate that feeling right away, right? And that's when we reach for food. That's when, the comfort food becomes our pacifier, and we no longer want to feel that gnaw in our stomach. And so one way to think about it is I can, sit with that feeling, explore it, and give it the nourishment so that it dissipates naturally. Or I can put the pacifier in. The feeling's still there, and when the pacifier goes away, the feeling comes back and triggered again and again and again. And that's when, we find the foods that we eat, for example, in our body build up and start to create plaque and start to create cancer and other things that, we don't want to bring into our space. And so the triggers are overscheduling ourselves, right? Overcommitting.
That's interesting.
Not saying, no enough, right? We say yes to everyone. My mom wants me to appear here. My husband or partner wants me to appear there. The kids have their needs. Really figuring out, what is, my dream for this time period? What do I want to experience? How do I want to show up? And who are the people and things that I lovingly say no thank you to? Because when we overextend ourselves, we feel anger. We feel sad that we're not getting to the things we want to get to. And so
I think an interesting part about the overextending ourselves is that I think with the technology we have nowadays, with Skype and with the telephone and the internet, we can really still connect if we have family in different places. There's a lot of ways that we can maybe send some things. Like we can do a lot of communication and connection to still express love and connection with those family members, right?
Exactly. And we probably do it with our coworkers more, right? We're on Facebook with them and we, don't necessarily leverage the technology with our family, but I think, like you said, that's a great opportunity to express the love and connection, again, celebration during this holiday season, and mitigate some of that sense of exhaustion, some of that overextending ourselves, or I have to placate someone else's request and then bottling up the feelings because of it.
Right, because you can only be in one place at one time, and at least if you're going to be in one place and maybe people are in other places, at least you can share that experience across the digital landscape, and whether it's photos or videos or live chat or streaming or, just maybe the other family members want to see the other family members and so forth. So that's great. So those are some of the patterns that lead to the food. And obviously in our program, in the online course, one of the reasons why I have the 9 rituals is to give people sort of some rails to go along so they don't go too far out of bounds when they are feeling these things. At least they'll have something they can look at and say, okay, I remember that bio said in this program these are the 5 habits of eating correctly, or these are the ways to hydrate and breathe and so forth. So what are some of the strategies that you specifically talk about regarding preventing ourselves from actually getting into the pitfalls? Like I think you mentioned before, how to experience the discomfort. And maybe we should go into a little bit more here into how do we communicate better, and then maybe not necessarily traumas, but some of the unresolved conflict. Like, let's say there was a financial dispute in your family, or there was an argument that occurred. There's still some resentment between people, and it wasn't necessarily a trauma that one person went through, but there's sort of a conflict lingering in the air. So how can we do that with the communication and the conflict?
That's a great one. First is, you named it, sit in the feeling, acknowledge what it is for yourself. The second and most important step I do with my clients is to journal those thoughts.
Okay.
Really do, what I call a purge. Let it all out. Everything you think, you say, some of the beliefs, some of the misunderstandings, put it all on paper. Then step away a couple hours a day, if you have a few minutes before the drive to the house, and then talk back to it. Look at each sentence, look at each theory and say, well, is this really true? This person owes me money. Does that take away from the love I hold? That will bring you back to what is really my intention for this experience. And this way I can release and put in place some of those parameters for where those feelings can sit during this time together. And so when the cousin who owes me money comes up to ask for more money, I'm not then triggered and ready to eat to kind of dull those feelings that I'm having. So journaling, talking back to it, telling the truth to yourself and others. We don't spend enough time preparing and having those conversations. So before I get to, Aunt Joan's house, maybe I call up that cousin and say, the last time we met, this is still in the air. And when we see each other, this is what I want to experience. How can we get there?
Oh, that's a beautiful way. That's literally like conflict resolution before you get to Aunt Joan's table.
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't want to be at the table doing that. Maybe if you do have some of these side things going on, trying to at least establish how we're going to act civilized once we're in the family centering or whatnot.
Exactly. And then, again, forgiving yourself, recalibrating in the moment. Wow, I hoped it would be different. And maybe I go talk to my partner. Maybe I sit with the app on my phone and, write a few more sentences around how am I feeling. That's okay, too. Rework the plan as you move through it.
Right. So, okay, I think we've covered a lot here, and I definitely wanted to talk with you a little bit about some of the things that you have coming up. I know that you have a series of workshops that you do before the new year.
Yes. I have a big event.
Tell us a little bit about that and how you kind of help people move into that transition of New Year's resolutions and just creating a fabulous year.
Absolutely. A lot of my work as a life coach is centered around manifesting and attracting the things, the people, and the experiences you want in your life. And so we do that in a culminating event called Design Your Year. It's an immersive 5-hour coaching experience with a group of proactive, positive, I call them my life designers. These are all women and men, looking to put those practices, those habits, those rituals, that language in place so that they're creating for different areas of their life, their body, their money, their family, their community, their love life, all the pieces that will grow and expand out in the universe and back into their lives. We don't, or very often we take for granted that planting those seeds reaps a garden. And so these experiences are designed to give you your gardening tools so that you can continue to build and flourish in this landscape, and not necessarily create just one resolution that you lose sight of. This is, the GPS for the life journey.
It sounds like there's a lot of peer connectivity in that as well. And I think that's one thing that people sometimes lose with the New Year's resolution. It's like, they're drinking the champagne, they got the balloons, the ball drops. Everybody's like, yeah, and they're texting everybody, and they're like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year. But it's like, if there's not a peer group who really, truly has committed to change and to make progress, a lot of people find themselves in a situation later as the year unfolds that, it's not supportive of that true declaration they wanted to have. So you have a peer group that, are they able to kind of stay in touch and formulate that peer connectivity in that?
The peer connectivity, and then, of course, working with me as their life coach. My practice is one where we're always co-creating. So I'm the expert in a coaching model. You are the expert in your life. And together we can build and flourish the landscape for which you want to experience, this human life, for your spiritual essence.
That's fabulous. And I'm so glad that we've been able to talk today. And it's really going to be incredible value for the people in the Happy Holidays Hot Bodies online course, as well as anyone who may listen to this online. And let's tell them where, Tanea, can people go to find you online, your social media, your website, and so forth.
Oh, wonderful. My pleasure. My website is www.designyoucoaching.com, all one word. And on the website, you'll find lots of information about the coaching practice, as well as an email and access to reach me directly. Or you can send an email to info@designyoucoaching.com to reach me directly.
Okay, that's great. And, I'll definitely put the links to your website under this video here. And I definitely look forward to doing some more content with you that will really help some of the members that are in our online course. And we won't give them all the details just yet. Once we get it together, we'll be definitely notifying everyone what that's going to be. And again, this is Bio with Happy Holidays Hot Bodies 12-week online course. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And Tanea, thank you again so much for sharing these wonderful insights with us. I know it's going to make a big difference for people as they want to make new progress towards the end of the year here and for the new year.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So everyone have a good holiday season, and we'll be seeing you on the next episode. Talk to you soon.